Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we'll be doing a run-through of Hazama, and I'll try to explain as much as I can about how I have been playing him so far. For my Mind Crystal setups, I'm taking things that just make the run a lot more consistent, in my opinion. Especially as you go up to really high entropy settings, enemies start dealing a lot of damage, and you get your HP healing cut on top of that. So having something like Mixture Enhancement and Mixture Amount is something that's very valuable in my opinion. And then same thing with potential refreshes. They make the run a lot more consistent, and also tactics can now also be refreshed if you have that Mind Crystal. Other than that, I think the 90% shop discount is just something that has a ton of value, so that's why I take that one. And then the MP is nice on Hazama, and we're going to be racking up a combo counter extremely quickly with some of his aerial attacks, so that's why I'm taking that. For difficulty settings, we're going down to 45, which is much lower than I play on a lot of the time, but we're going to be going into Transcendence mode. I'll show it here real quick. All enemy attributes increase as stages progress, so enemies get tankier and do more damage as the run goes on. All elite enemies will be more difficult to deal with, so they seem more aggressive in general, but they also have some modified move sets. This makes them quite a bit more difficult than normal, in my opinion. And then the benefit of doing this is that defeating elite enemies in the first 4 stages will upgrade your legacy skills that you're using. So because of how tanky enemies are getting in this mode, I went ahead and turned off the time limit. With Lambda, I wasn't having any issues with the time limit, but with Hazama, I was starting to run out of time. I had it maxed out, so I think if you probably went down to like 8 minutes, maybe even 7 minutes, you'd be okay. But I'm just going to turn it off, so it's not something that ends up ending the run, potentially. And then kind of the same thing for turning the damage down. It's something that will make the run more consistent for me to do with commentary. My goal when I do commentary videos is more so to give information about the character and stuff, rather than trying to, like, perfect everything. So for Legacy setup, I'm going to be running with Cold Attack and Frost Burst on Jhin. Jin's just very universally good for his time stasis passive. You can never go wrong taking him. And then I'm not going to be using his second legacy because his freeze is just so good on its own. For Rachel, on the other hand, I will be using her new second legacy skill, which is Tempest Dahlia. And then I've got Frost Impulse and Frost Explosion on her. As I mentioned before with one of the Mind Crystals, Hazama's air attacks, and then later on some of his ground attacks as well, deal a ton of hits. So this makes Frost Attack and Frost Burst trigger very often. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and say this now. This is probably going to be the most difficult video I've made so far. Between Hazama's execution itself gets very intense once we start unlocking some of the potentials, and then there's a lot to explain as well. So just kind of bear with me with everything. I'm going to try to explain everything as well as I can. But anyways, for the first potential, the things I'm looking for are stuff like Triple Dash, Ouroboros. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but from now on I'm gonna refer to it as chains. It's the move, the SP move where you throw out your chains. I'm looking for that one, I'm looking for triple dash, and I'm looking for invincibility on the basic version of his skill. Those are the three that I very highly prioritize with Hazama. The chains are something that's going to be difficult to get used to when you first start playing him, and if you really don't want to learn them, you don't have to. His mobility before either triple dash or chains is pretty low, but once you get one or the other, it gets a lot better. Okay, so here we go, we got the chains immediately. And this is where the run starts becoming much more difficult for me, because I have to start executing all of the chain movement. But we're gonna do our best. But here you can already see, like, such a big difference in playing as soon as you unlock those chains. There's something that's going to be, like I said, they're going to be very difficult to learn at first, but once you start getting a feel for them, they really open up the character a lot, in my opinion. One thing you do need to be careful with the chains early on is that you need to unlock invincibility frames for them with a separate potential. So when you're chaining into enemies very aggressively, like I was doing there, you need to be mindful of the fact that you don't have invincibility frames yet. I should not have refreshed that shop. Oh well. Let me check on something real quick. Okay. I just want to make sure that the music display is working properly before I get too far into the run. If I accidentally minimize the window for it, then it freezes up, and it's just frozen for the entire run if I don't notice it early on. Oh yeah, something I should mention is that I did go ahead and pick up Summon Blade Ring, which has probably been used like maybe once on my entire channel. Maybe on some of the really early stuff, but in general, I know the only build that I can think of that I used it was a Blender Ragna build. But anyways, I mention it because it actually got buffed this recent patch. I still say it's not as good as Summon Ice Spikes, especially if you're running a Frost build in the first place, but the buffs actually did help it out quite a bit in my opinion. I've been having a lot of fun running it instead of Ice Spikes, just for the sake of having something different. So here, I know a lot of people, at least in the Discord, have really been liking going a build where you end up just spamming this move a bunch of times. I think that's a good build, but the setup to get there is a lot rougher than the build that I go. You need to get this to a point of hidden effects where you start getting MP off of it, which that one itself isn't too hard, but then there's also a lot of other hidden effects that increase your MP gain. I have it all written down, and if you want to get to full MP absorption, you need 8 different potentials, and that's not even including the one that would also... the 2 extra potentials that would also make the up plus skill be usable in the air and hit in a wider range. So it's just... I tried going skill-based builds at first, but I found that I was spending way too many potentials on just, like, passive stuff instead of unlocking new moves, and I was having a much harder time clearing runs, and I wasn't enjoying them nearly as much. So anyways, here is one of the important potentials that I was talking about. It doesn't matter what kind of build you're running, I would always recommend trying to pick this up as soon as possible. It just makes him so much safer in general. I really don't want Fire or Toxin, but I don't need the rest stage either, so... Never feels too good to, like, waste a combat space, but it's fine. One of the difficulties about being in 45 entropy compared to the, like, 75 to 81 that I usually play at is that you get so much less exchange points for selling tactics. I guess for people that haven't watched me before, I generally play with selling a lot of my tactics in favor of being able to buy additional potentials at the shops. I think it's just much better. That that sweeper hitbox is something that always really throws me off. His grab will like extend way out, but it's like the chain itself on the arm will have a hitbox still. I shouldn't be doing that. Okay. I got lucky there, but chaining inwards as he's attacking is something that's dangerous without the other chain potential. It's just it's so muscle memory from the previous runs I've played. So, early on you can see there that I'm mostly relying on my air jump attacks in order to stack a lot of frost quickly and proc the frost burst. Depending on what you get early enough, you can also throw in some other moves, but that's just what I have to work with right now. So I kind of mentioned this when I was talking about the skill build, but one thing that's helped me on Hazama is to stop focusing on these passives so much. They are good, but my problem is that if I start focusing on them, I end up at the point where I don't feel like I really have a moveset, because I'm so into passives instead. And Hazama's base moveset is not very good. It's very limited and very low range. So next we have the option of going for a lot of different things. Vengeful Viper is a really good option, in my opinion, so since we see it here, I'm going to go ahead and take it. One of the other really early, one of the other potentials that I recommend picking up, just kind of whenever you see it, there's an input that you do down plus dash in order to dive into the ground. That one is very good for general movement, especially when it comes to combining that movement with your chains. Hopefully I'll be able to show that off at some point. Yeah, we can go ahead and drain some HP there. And then I'm gonna be... I talked about it a little bit with selling tactics, but I'm also going to be prioritizing exchange points in most space selections above anything else. I just want to get the most potentials as possible in a run, and to do that, you kind of need to use a lot of shops. It's also really RNG too, just based on how many shops you get in a run is RNG, and also just what you get out of them. So Vengeful Viper is the most recent potential I picked up. I'll probably be referring to them as just like stance moves, and that's because it's just kind of how the wording of the attack is, and it's just kind of a term for how they work. So I'll show that off once there aren't any enemies around. The thing about this Vengeful Viper is that it's a little bit difficult to use before you get a second potential for it, in my opinion. So you'll want to... oh, hang on a second. With Blade Ring, what I always look for is Precision Cut. It adds more hits onto the Blade Rings. I think it's better than the other options, in my opinion. Especially, I don't know if Blade Ring Pull still does it, but in the past, when I've tried out Blade Ring Pull, it throws enemies way away from you, instead of, like, pulling them in. So I don't like taking that one. I've had bad experiences with it in the past. So yeah, I really like the Precision Cut. Not only does it add more hits, but it also deals more damage. Okay, so Vengeful Viper, which is the stance stuff, you hold attack, you can do it on the ground or in the air, and then afterwards you either press neutral attack, up attack, or down attack. I don't really feel a whole lot of use for the up attack and down attack versions. I mean, it's a decent grounded launcher if you are like trying to set up a combo, but just in general gameplay, I mostly use the neutral version. The neutral version is going to get much, much bigger as we start to get some hidden effects for it. So speaking of hidden effects, Hazama has like a billion of them, and I think that that's another thing that when I first started trying to play him, I was trying to optimize a lot of things around the hidden effects and unlocking as many of them as possible. But what's been working for me a lot better is to just not focus on them too heavily and just kind of take what I get and prioritize his chains for movement and his attacking moves instead. So one universal enhancement, I said I am skipping a lot of these early on, but the one I do want to take is additional hits to knife attacks, since we're running a build that's very focused on the amount of hits our attacks are dealing and the damage our attacks are dealing. So one of the reasons why in Mind Crystals, I think Mixture Enhancement and Mixture, I don't remember what the other one's called, but it's the one that gives you more mixtures. One of the reasons why it's so good is that when paired with the Discount Crystal, you end up getting some extra free mixtures during the run. And all of these mixtures are healing for, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's probably somewhere over 100%. If I get low enough to where I'm gonna use one, you'll see just how ridiculous the healing is. I know I'm probably gonna jinx the run by saying this, but with me having 8 mixtures, there's a very good chance that I'll win the run, even if I make some pretty big mistakes. Oh, I thought the AoE was done hitting there. I don't know if I just saw it wrong, or if the hitbox kind of lingered. Not a big deal, though. That's a perfect chance for me to show off. I'm gonna wait till I take one more hit, actually. Because I think I'm right around the healing that a mixture would do right now. But I wanna take a little bit more damage first, just to make sure I show off the full healing amount. Plus, I don't think I'll die from this HP, even if I take a bit of a burst. Now watch that be my famous last words. So one thing you'll probably notice is that during this run there's probably going to be a lot of periods of time where I just forget to use the chains. That's going to be a mix of just, I'm still practicing the character more, I don't quite have the muscle memory completely down, and trying to do commentary on top of that, it adds another layer of difficulty completely. I know YouTubers say it all the time, that as soon as you start, like, recording yourself and doing commentary on top, you just immediately get way worse at whatever game you're playing. And I never really fully got the concept of that until I started doing YouTube myself, and now I understand a lot more. Okay, let's... No, I'm not gonna use my mixture yet. I'm gonna keep being greedy about it. And sometimes it's good to be greedy. But here's the other thing about the shop discount Mind Crystal. You just get a lot of free healing off of it too, from that. Just the amount of value that you get out of free shops in general. What the? I do not know how that input came out. I've been having some weird issues like that. So there you could see the mixture in action. I don't know how low I was when I actually used it. I think that was not even the full potential of the healing, but I'm sure we'll see it again later. So I don't know how obvious it is to you guys, but the boss that I'm fighting right now is a lot more aggressive than the regular one, and some of the moves are a little bit different. Some bosses I feel like it's way more noticeable on than others. I notice it on this a lot more than I do for I, and hang on. This phase, I think, is more difficult than the regular one. The thing is, normally I don't ever get to that phase in my regular playthroughs. Also, something you'll notice is that this is only the first boss, or this is the second boss, I mean, and it already has 150,000 HP. Keep an eye on those HP counts as we get to the next bosses. I'll try to bring it up again, but if not, just keep that in mind. The bosses are going to get a ridiculous amount of HP by the end of the run. So this wouldn't be a bad option, but I feel like my MP management isn't really that bad to begin with. So I'd rather keep unlocking moves. Specifically, here we go. This is the move that I've been waiting for in terms of Vengeful Viper. Pressing Action key transitions into Serpent's Benediction immediately. It's just, you go into your stance form immediately, is what that means. So now, anytime I can just press the Action key, and then I can go into that immediately. Rather than you have to attack, do your entire hold attack, and then go into the stance. It's very slow, and I don't like using it. But this, on the other hand, you can use anytime, immediately. It's going to be another one of those things where getting used to the input is going to be a lot different than other characters, but once you do get used to it, it's going to be helpful. By the way, I'm not going to mess around with Black Market or Covenant this run. Those are things that I think are very good during casual runs, but in commentary runs, my goal is to get as far as I can in the run as consistently as I can. That way I don't go and, like, record a bunch of commentary and lose the run very early on and just have to scrap everything and start over. These commentary runs are more about explaining, like, what potentials I pick up and some of the character mechanics, more so than anything else. So here you can start to see, now that I've unlocked the being able to use the stances immediately, it's going to become one of my best clearing tools. There's another hidden effect somewhere that you need that makes the attack much bigger. But like I said, I wouldn't focus too hard on the hidden effects. Like, pay attention in terms of when you're picking up your potentials. If you see that a hidden effect is about to be unlocked that you want, go ahead and pick it up. But I don't think, like, prioritizing towards very specific hidden potential routes is something that's very important or necessarily even good to do, in my experience with him. I ended up a lot more frustrated that way, trying to optimize things. Now, eventually, there might just be some path that's found that's pretty optimal in terms of getting hidden effects and unlocking moves, but in general, I would say don't stress about it, in my opinion. One problem I've noticed with the chains is that there will be some really weird stage geometry that you'll kind of get stuck on sometimes. Like, random ledges, or even just, like, the hook will sometimes lock on to random stuff, even though it's not there. I don't really need any more ice tactics, so I'll just go in the event here. This is an extremely good deal. If you ever see it, just take it. It's 50 for just a single buff in the shop. So getting 3 of them is, getting 3 of them for 50 is an insanely good deal. Also, I got fast kill MP recovery there, which is really huge for Hazama. It's gonna let me clear out these normal stages much more quickly and smoothly now. The one downside I've noticed with the chains is that when you get in these, like, I'm trying to think of how to explain it, but if you get in these, like, certain groups of enemies, it's hard to use the chains, because you'll want to be going, like, further with the chain, but you'll hit some random enemy instead. It's hard to explain what I mean. So here, I'm trying to think, yeah, this is what I want to be looking for. I talked about this earlier, it's the down plus dash input. It's another way of giving yourself invincibility, but more importantly, it's a very, very good movement tool when combined with the chains, in my opinion. And then I think... I'm trying to think of if there's any more... I think we honestly got all of the main potentials that I want in terms of like attacking tools, and my chain is upgraded with invincibility, so I think at this point we're good to start just going into passives. One thing... Oh, I should have taken that. That was on discount. Oh well. I have 8 of them at this point. I don't think having the extra one is gonna matter a whole lot. So there's one example of what I was talking about with the chains. Sometimes, what happened there, I'm pretty sure, is that it was one of those random containers that's just around the stage. I think the hitbox for it is actually, like, stretching above where its model was, so that's where that's why the chain got stuck there. But sometimes there will just be, like, nothing. It'll just get stuck in a random part of the background. Okay, so we got a couple good options here. We either have improved MP absorption again, or I can get some of the invincibility upgrades. Actually, this also gives me one of the MP absorption passives. So, this upskill and the chain unlock potential are both used in a ton of hidden effects, I've noticed. So even if you're not going to be using them, at some point you might want to pick up them along the way. I'm trying to remember... Okay, I do have the MP absorption. I'm gonna go ahead and show that one real quick on stream. Or on the recording. This one you get from having up plus skill and MP absorption rates on the universal enhancement. That one's very important because you don't get any MP back normally. I don't like to really start using this until I have that extra MP on it. I can't believe I forgot to talk about the whole MP absorption system. Like I said, this is the most complicated video I've had to record, so it's unfortunate that I forgot, but we'll talk about it now. Hazama, just passively, every time you land an attack, he gets some kind of MP refund on them. Sort of similar to how Ragna refunds some HP when he hits, Hazama refunds MP. And he has a ton of hidden effects related to increasing the amount of MP. To the point of where, if you start stacking multiple of these hidden effects, you will start just making more MP than you spend, for the most part, or making around the same that you spend. It gets really ridiculous. But like I said before, the problem with that is that it just takes a ton of potentials to get there. So rather than focusing on the hidden potentials that give the MP, I focus on getting his chains immediately for the movement and for the additional iframes on them, and then I just start going into a lot of his different attack moves instead. Let's see. Okay, there we go. I finally showed it off. I'm not very good at it yet, but one thing that got shown off right there at the end is that if an enemy hits you while you're pulling to your chain, you will need the invincibility potential for it first, but once you get that, if an enemy hits you, you do a counterattack, which deals a lot of damage. Another good thing to look out for, just kind of anytime it shows up, is this grounded and airborne up attack that you can unlock. I think it's much better than his default combo, in my opinion. It also can potentially go into some hidden effects with the chain, if you end up getting enough of the potentials for both of them. I really like, this is the combo, by the way. It's the one I've been using. I really like it because it feels a lot quicker, and it's also a launcher, which I've been mentioning that his air attacks hit a lot of times, and they do pretty good damage. Well, they do good damage with the frost setup, at least. Another thing that I was running into a lot of the times with the skill build is that I wasn't clearing out rooms fast enough. Because my attacks felt like they just weren't ever really doing anything. And the only way to play really was to keep spamming skills, which I didn't really enjoy. But the skill-based build is strong. It's just not my preferred method of playing him. So another thing, since we already have like a lot of the potentials that I want, I don't mind taking this later on because of the hidden effect where the chain's flight distance is increased. This will also be used in one of the it'll also be used in one of the hidden potentials as well, where you can unlock like being able to attack while you're swinging on your chain. Not a huge deal, it's just a nice bonus towards the end of the run. Oops. That actually brings up a good thing that I have to talk about. Here we have this too. One thing you have to be really careful of on Hazama, if you're running the like stances thing, is that if you press neutral, you'll go into the stance, but if you press forward, you'll throw the chain. It's very, very easy to accidentally throw the chain when you're trying to go into stance. Part of that is my bad habit of pressing directions when I don't need to, but it's something that's probably pretty easy to do in general too. I wish I would be using both the stance and the chains a lot more throughout the run. That's something I've kind of noticed I'm very underutilizing. But like I said before, it's something it's very difficult to balance everything when it comes to adding commentary on top of playing. Especially when it's a character I've only had a couple days with so far. But honestly, like, I'm really happy with how the run and most of the commentary's gone so far. It's a lot better than I expected it to. At least based on what I can tell. I was really worried about doing this run, honestly. With how complicated the character himself is, and then just trying to be able to explain things efficiently on top of that is... it's difficult. It's difficult, but it's something that I like to focus on. Something that I've always noticed when I watch other people play roguelikes is that you eventually get to a point where you're playing roguelikes that you're kind of moving through things. You're kind of moving through things so quickly, just like based off of muscle memory, that I think as a viewer, sometimes it can be hard to follow what's going on unless you're like pausing constantly just to see what upgrades they've taken and stuff like that. So that's something I've always really tried to prioritize with my videos and commentary, is trying to find a balance between taking the times to explain things while not dragging on. This upgrade is a little bit of a... It feels like a little bit of a double-edged sword to me. Once you have all of the... the hidden effects that start giving you a lot of MP gain, I think it's good. But before that, I feel like taking this a lot of times just causes me to burn through my MP way too quickly compared to not having it. So I'm gonna hold off on that. I think I'm gonna just grab... Yeah, I like the air attack resets. I know there's something that I'm missing out on talking about, but I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, okay. I know what it is. Let me see if I can actually... See, there's another example of my chain movement got messed up by having that. There's a little lip on that edge there. Sometimes just really weird things happen with it because these stages were not designed for it. I think the worst case of that happening is that in some of the ruins stages, where you're kind of like on a platform, and there's like miasma below, sometimes I try to chain to the platform, and instead it goes all the way down into the miasma, and makes me take damage. It's not a good time. Let me see if... I know I don't have the SP to do it. I'll try to go into training mode, maybe, if I don't get it here. This is some of the hidden effects I was talking about. It allows you to attack out of your... while you're doing your chain swings, basically. It's really complicated, though. There, you can see it. So, it requires... First of all, there's a potential that lets it so if you're swinging to something on your chain and you hold the action button, you will swing past it instead of landing in front of it. It's probably easier if this is one case where I should just go into the training mode and take some time. So you can see there, I go over it, but here, I don't swing quite as far. Depending on like what direction I hold and how he moves, I think it's just based on how he moves, actually. But if I hold it, I end up swinging over, whereas if I don't hold it, I end up more in front of him. Now, you can combine this with holding down the attack button once you have the right hidden potentials for it, and then you can get additional hits in that way. So if I do something like this, it's really good if you can get them in the air, like that. You can get a ton of hits in that way very quickly. Based on like trying to use it on bosses, the DPS doesn't really seem that good, but that could also be because by the time I'm getting it, bosses are having like 300,000 HP in this mode. So yeah, that's one thing I'm not sure if the move itself just isn't too good, or if it's just the enemy scaling. By the way, watch my HP bar here when I use a mixture. That is a majority of the bar filled back up. I can never like emphasize enough how good the mixture enhancement thing is. The Mind Crystal, I mean. So once again, I think the stances, once you get the... Oh, unless you do that, I think the stances are really strong once you can use them automatically and you get the range increase on that. It's just something that I'm underutilizing because of just execution. My chains I have also been underutilizing a lot as well. There is another example of something I talked about earlier. Sometimes you'll knock a group of enemies away, and then you'll want to chain into them, but another enemy will just stuff your chain instead. Either just due to not getting knocked back somehow, or spawning in front of you. I wish there was a way to somehow like do an input, and the chain would go through enemies instead of hitting them. It would make it a lot easier to do chain movement when you're stuck in the middle of a group of enemies. Especially on stages like this, where you don't really have any aerial room to work with either. When you are in these more open spaces, you can always just double jump or triple jump before you're using your chains. That's a good way to get the mobility out of them without risking hitting an enemy accidentally. It's good for boss fights as well, because that same thing can happen in boss fights as well. You're in such close range for your basic attacks that you can end up accidentally chaining the boss instead of being able to throw it out while you're trying to escape. There's another random case where the door actually has like chain collision, I guess, even though the player can't collide with it. There's some funky stuff that can happen. One thing I'm not sure about with Ascension is if the regular enemies start to get more aggressive with their attacks, or if it's just the bosses. I've been having a difficult time telling with the standard enemies. I don't think they're attacking faster, but it's difficult to tell. So here is another really fun hidden potential to look for if you see it. You don't really need to pick up this potential unless you see that the hidden effects are there. But removing the limit on your aerial attacks is insane. That's how I did a lot of the stuff in my combo video with him, where I stayed in the air for a long amount of time. So really, you can just, you can gain infinite height just by spamming up air and go off screen. It's really funny, but overall, he feels like a very aerial character, in my opinion, so being able to just stay in the air indefinitely is a very nice thing for him. Oh god. If you thought Oreed was bad in normal mode, it's time for Ascended Oread, which is much more difficult. I missed the opportunity on the stun there, too. One nice thing about Oread is that you can get a lot of free counters off of her. This move, I really... So when she's in Ascended form, it seems like she spams that move multiple times instead of once. It's something that really catches me off guard because I'm not used to it happening multiple times. I'm also getting low, so I need to... That's one thing about, like, Jin's passive is insane in general, but being able to use the invulnerability to get a free health mixture in is not something that's you can really do otherwise. So here again, we're going to use that time to get a mixture. I didn't even really realize I had taken a lot of damage there. This boss is kind of just like... It's very easy to take random damage somewhere from the butterflies or from other things happening. Oh, that's not what I want. Oof. That could have been really bad. I wanted to catch her with that chain. This is not the time to be trying to do flashy stuff, but I'm doing it anyways. And, of course, screwing it up. Oh no, oh no. I nearly, very, very nearly just threw the run trying to do cool stuff. Oh my god. Yeah, that's Ascended Oread. Not a good time. A lot of that stuff is... The damage I was taking could have been prevented if I was a lot more focused. But... oh well. I don't really mind if I'm playing, like, extremely cleanly or not. I care more about sharing information when I do these. Okay, so let me switch songs. I'm going straight into Hazama. I'm not gonna bother farming anything else, and I'm not going into Ascended Reki right now. I need a lot more practice with her. Ascended Reki is very difficult. She has such a high health pool. Look at Hazama, or look at Susanoo's health pool, by the way. 500,000 in a single phase. This is why this is why I'm not running the timer entropy anymore. I should heal here. Huh, I'm surprised that didn't trigger a counter. Sometimes the counters feel a little finicky. Normally they always work when I would expect them to, but occasionally there's ones where I feel like I should be getting it, but I'm not. It could just be something that's slightly mistimed. Well, there's one phase down. 2 more to go. I'm really surprised that didn't trigger counter either. Huh. Oh, that was insane! Every so often you'll do something on Hazama and it'll be the best thing you've ever done. It'll be like the best thing you've ever done. And that's not what I want to say, but I can't words right now. I didn't counter. Huh. It's something I'm gonna have to, like, practice more with, but I'm gonna end up throwing a lot of runs that way too, trying to get the counter and mistiming it. I wonder how much of the difficulty I'm having is tied to, like, when you're trying to get the counter in, something you have to keep in mind is how far you're away when you start pulling the chain. Sometimes, like, right there, it's really easy to use in that situation, but other times, yeah, I guess having to, like, actually calculate distance is something that will make it a lot harder to land at the same time, depending on the situation. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm not dead yet. Ooh, that was close. I don't think that was a good idea. Can I do it again? Uh-oh, uh-oh, I'm out of SP! Okay, okay, we got him. Whew. Yeah, that was definitely almost an example of throwing the run, trying to get counters off. Some of the things that you do as Hazama, like landing those counters, especially if you can land a couple of them back to back, are such like a huge dopamine hit that I end up throwing the runs trying to do them. But I think it's really fun. So in general, I think, in my opinion so far, I think Hazama has like some of the highest highs and also some of the lowest lows of any character. Where sometimes if you're getting really good potential setups, you have a lot of fun. Other times, if you get stuck like with a lot of passives and you're not unlocking some of your moveset, it can be some of the worst gameplay at the same time. In general, in my opinion, what's been working best for me is to prioritize unlocking the chains for the movement and the invincibility, unlocking triple dash for the movement, unlocking the invincibility on the skill, and then from there, mostly just trying to unlock as many moves as possible. In particular, I think the down plus dash is really good as an option for when you get to the end of your chain pull. It lets you just attack enemies immediately, and you can also do a lot of aerial stuff with it, like pulling yourself up into the air and then dashing down with that. Other than that, I would say don't focus too heavily on hidden potentials. Pay attention to if you see them when you're picking up your potentials and it's a useful one, take it that way, but don't get too caught up on feeling like you have to route your potentials specifically for those hidden effects. That's just some of my general advice on him based on what I've played so far. Hopefully, I was able to explain most of what was going on and give you guys a good example of how to play him. There was a lot going on that run, so I'm sure there's some things I missed, but I think overall, I was hopefully able to get most of the information across that I needed to. Definitely one of my most difficult videos to make so far, by far. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.